China, long known for its tightly controlled political landscape, finds itself in an unusual situation. In a recent month, a sweeping purge has torn through the upper ranks of the People's Liberation Army and also through the strategic sectors. At the same time, President Xi Jinping, once the ever-present face of Chinese power, has faded conspicuously from the public eye. The world is left to wonder, is this the beginning of a seismic shift within the Chinese Communist Party? And what does Xi's vanishing act mean for China's future? Since late 2024, China has unleashed an unprecedented campaign against its senior military officials. The National People's Congress recently removed General Mua Hua, Vice Admiral Li Hanjun, and nuclear scientist Liu Shaifeng from their post, citing serious violation of discipline, a phrase synonym with corruption in Chinese political parlance. Now let's talk a little bit more about these names. General Mua Hua, once head of the Political Works Department of the Central Military Commission, has been under investigation since November 2024. His removal from his post marks the 8th ousting of a member from this elite body since Xi took part, an event unheard since the Mao era. Then comes Vice Admiral Li Hangjun, the Chief of the Staff of the PLA Navy. Li's expulsion signals that the purge is not only limited to the army but extends to the Navy. Then comes Liu Shaifeng, a top nuclear scientist, and in fact his removal underscores that the campaign is not just about targeting military brass but also those in sensitive high-tech defense roles. You know what's one thing in common in all these names? They were all once considered close to Xi. The scope of the purge is staggering. More than a dozen generals and defense industry leaders have been investigated, and rumors swirl that up to 39 senior officials, including 3 admirals, have been purged or have disappeared under mysterious circumstances. As I mentioned earlier too, many of these individuals were once seen as Xi's own appointees, raising the spectre of internal betrayal or shifting allegiances within the party's code. The scale and speed of military purge suggest a leadership deeply concerned about loyalty and control. Historically, China has used anti-corruption drives both as a tool for discipline and a weapon to eliminate rivals. Xi's campaign, which began soon after he assumed leadership in 2013, has now entered a new, more aggressive phase. While the official narratives frame these actions as a fight against corruption, the removal of Xi's own men hints at something deeper. Perhaps a loss of trust in his inner circle, or the emergence of factions stronger enough to challenge his authority. The fact that so many of these purges were once considered Xi's loyalists may indicate that the very mechanism he used to centralize power are now unraveling. In fact, analysts suggest that the CCP is experiencing its most significant internal tensions in decades, with the military's loyalty no longer a given. Amid this turmoil, Xi Jinping's absence has become a story of its own. For over 2 weeks, Xi was not seen in public, a highly unusual occurrence for a leader known for his omnipresence in Chinese media. In fact, he skipped the 2025 BRICS summit in Brazil, the first time in 12 years that a Chinese president has missed the event. In fact, Premier Li Qiang led the Chinese delegation instead, fueling speculation about Xi's health and grip on power. In fact, reports from within China suggest that Xi's influence is waning. Some attribute his absence to health issues, others point to an internal power struggle with factions loyal to former President Hu Jintao allegedly gaining ground. Now here's something very interesting. The CCP's internal machinery is showing signs of significant change. In late June, the Politburo held an unusual meeting to discuss major changes to party's institutional functioning, a move widely interpreted as preparation for a leadership transition. Well, for the first time, key responsibilities are being delegated to party institutions and senior colleagues, including party's premier and vice premier. This redistribution of authority marks a departure from Xi's decades-long trend of centralizing power. the emergence of new central commissions and leading groups led by figures other than Xi points to a possible recalibration of party's power structure. Not only this, reports also indicate that senior party leaders are frustrated with China's economic slowdown and also diplomatic isolation. In fact, they have openly begun to challenge Xi's leadership. Retired leaders including Hu Jintao reportedly demanded Xi's resignation at the recent Politburo meeting. The military purge in China is not simply a campaign against corruption. It is a symptom of deeper instability at the heart of the CCP. Xi Jinping's diminishing public presence, coupled with the removal of his closest ally and a sudden shift in party governance, suggest only one thing: that China may be on the cusp of its most profound leadership transition in decades. Whether this results in renewed stability or greater turmoil only remains to be seen. But one thing is clear: the era of Xi's unchallenged dominance is under unprecedented strain.